Welcome to Brand Builders TV. Deep dive topics, tools, and resources brought to you by global thought leaders from within the Brand Builders Club. This show gives you access to the strategies that you can use to move forward with ease and flow in every area of your life and business. In today's show, Licia is going to focus on building resilience and choosing joy. Join Licia to learn ways to leverage your powerful choice to alchemize your challenges into boosting your influence, your leadership, and your success. Learn it, model it, and get shit done. Let's go.
Hello, hello. This is Licia Berry, the Guide to the Frontier Inside and president of Hexagon Global. And I am here on BBTV. Welcome to BBTV. Today, I am going to be guiding you through, as the Guide to the Frontier Inside, episode 6 of my 6-part series. I am not a victim. I am victorious. And this is a series that is geared towards leaders and business owners who may have faced some kind of challenge or pain in their lives and are ready for that pain to be turned into their prize. Today's show, I'm going to continue this journey with you of an orientation towards success and fulfillment that will transform any challenge that you have faced in the past, that you might be facing now, or that you will face in the future into rocket fuel for your success. This is an orientation of being able to turn pain into our prize, accepting, claiming, and even embracing our pain changes it from suffering to blessings and lessons, or blessings, as we like to say. So, I just a note about me. I'm the guide to the frontier inside. I've been training leaders, culture creators, and business owners since 2003 in my signature system and holistic model with a background in education, psychology, neuroscience, and earth medicine, indigenous medicine. And so far in this 6-part series, I've introduced you to this philosophy of turning your pain into your prize. And how we say in indigenous medicine is that you turn your bad medicine into good medicine. And what that does is totally transforms you into the alchemical warrior that you have been meant to be. If you're called into something large in the world, then that means that you were really meant to lead, and it requires a different level of self accountability and responsibility. The potential to be, the greatest medicine bringer that you can be. And that requires you to, in order to serve your audience, your customers, your clients, and students, it requires you to be responsible for what has occurred in your life in a different way than most people. To be the example of someone who has turned their pain and prize into their prize, and to be successful in their lives is a huge inspiration to all people, and it's a good example to follow. Since pain is part of life, we may as well face it. So we may as well turn it into something useful and productive for all creation. So the strategies that I showed you, just a brief review, are number one, about why being vulnerable is so important and reaching out to ask for support when we have encountered something challenging in our lives, when we are feeling pain and when we're under the cloud of pain. It's hard to help oneself when we are under that kind of an influence. And the very first step is to realize, oh my gosh, I'm in pain. And to let that be okay, to not judge ourselves for it, and to reach out, for support, so that we can begin that process of moving out from under that dark cloud and then turning that pain into something useful in our lives without staying stuck, because self-judgment really is the fastest way to stay stuck. Strategy 2 was that once we have allowed ourselves to be vulnerable and ask for support, is to then receive it, which may seem counterintuitive, like, well, certainly by asking for it, we're receiving it, right? Not so. Receiving it is a whole next step. In fact, you may have noticed in your life before that you have asked for support. Maybe you've been brave enough and vulnerable enough to ask for support, but then maybe you didn't receive it fully. And so I shared with you my practice of receiving, so that you can actually receive the support and take that crucial step between asking for help and actually allowing that help in to benefit you. Then strategy 3 was calling on your inner alchemist and turning lead into gold by making the bold choice to turn your life into a crucible and transform the suffering, whatever that suffering may be, whether it's a small amount or a large amount. And frankly, suffering of any amount is not pleasant. To turn that into something that's actually useful, to apply the heat of our desire to change our life, our devotion to living a life of joy and positivity, that determination, the intention and attention is how we apply that heat to the suffering. And what that does is catalyzes us into the power of our choice, the actual reminder that we are not powerless to our suffering. And I drew the line, the connection between suffering and powerlessness, the misperception that we are powerless, and how to shift that into power, which then, of course, begins to dissipate suffering completely. That sheer motivation to improve our life provides the transforming agent, and suddenly suffering is no longer part of the equation. I really actually see suffering as a tremendous gift, an alchemical transformation that we give ourselves if we choose it, if we choose it. And so then strategy 4 was about creating good medicine. As I've said before, we like to say in earth medicine, indigenous medicine, we talk about turning your bad medicine into good medicine. We all know bad medicine. That's the yucky stuff that happens to us in our lives. And yet we think of it in indigenous medicine, we think of that as medicine because it's still giving us something. It's still providing some kind of a lesson and a blessing. So a blessing. And if we look at it from that framework, if we look at it from the point of view of these things that inevitably occur in our lives that are hard and even troubling, can be for us rather than just to us, if we're willing to shift into that mindset and then build into creating something good out of it. So we went over some very practical steps to manage the way that you think. And this is important. The way that we create good medicine from our bad medicine is starting completely with how we think. I explore the concepts of beliefs and thoughts and subconscious filters in which we see through a set of hues that color the world in a certain way. And that set of hues, that filter, may not be the way the world actually is. I showed you what happens to your brain on stress and shared with you some whole brain postures to reintegrate your brain after stress or trauma. I also reminded you not to believe everything that you think, because that master computer of our brain may be informed by outdated software from your painful past experience. And as a result, causing your view of the world to be more fearful or sad or otherwise not joyful and full of possibilities. So, a hugely important strategy to lead us into today's strategy number 5, which is to choose differently. Choose differently. And you might say, well, that just seems so apparent and obvious. But you know what? I have seen in all of my decades of training up business owners and leaders and culture creators that the power of our choice is so under our nose that we don't always see it, and we don't always appreciate it. We don't always understand the immense gift that it is. We take it for granted, and so we forget that we have the power of choice at every moment. And so today's strategy is to choose differently, and I'm going to give you very practical ways in order for you to do that. So you see, choosing differently, it begins with grit. It begins with a determined choice to have a different life than the one that is unhappy or unfulfilled. If you think of any moment in your life where you were unsatisfied and you wanted something different, that's the beginning of grit. the decision, the choice in that moment. I'm going to reach for something better. I'm going to reach for something different. That was a determined choice, or what a lot of people call grit, where we are walking around and remembering that we do get to choose. So many of us are walking this earth um, like zombies. I remember when all these zombie movies and TV shows started to come out. I was just mystified. I was like, why are we fascinated by zombies as a cultural collective? Why are we looking at zombies? And I realized because so many of us are sleepwalking through our lives, like little unconscious, um, well, animals, zombies, the ones that don't have any conscious thought. And we walk around not remembering that we are endowed with the power of free will and that we choose at every moment, whether we know it or not, whether we make conscious choice or unconscious reaction. Choosing is the single greatest gift that we have as evolved Homo sapiens. Our power to choose is what has the capacity to shift a life from bleak to beautiful, from just managing to flourishing, and from surviving to thriving. And I'm here to tell you that this is true. I know this from my own life experience. I shared in episode 1 um, a very vulnerable moment where I told you a little bit about my life and what I've overcome. I grew up with a very difficult childhood, having every kind of abuse perpetrated onto me, and violence, criminal violence, attempted murder. Um, I was held at gunpoint with a gun to my temple at age 12. And I was initiated into the dark, the dark mysteries of human behavior from the very beginning of my life. And it was very difficult as a young woman to live a different life than the one that I had been programmed to live. I was carrying installed software that I could only have violence in my life or pain. Um, I created an unconscious life that was very similar to the one that I had grown up with. And it wasn't until I began to get the idea that I could change my life because I was so miserable, I was so unhappy, that I began with my mind. My mind was the very first place that I needed to change. And in the hands of excellent therapists and teachers and healers, my mind began to change. I started at age 21 to really examine my mind in such a way that I decided I was going to change my life. And when I put myself in the hands of people that could help me, I did the very same series of strategies that I shared with you. I began by recognizing I was miserable and I made myself vulnerable and asked for help. I reached out and found a wonderful therapist in my 20s who, upon hearing my story and hearing the kinds of things that I'd lived through, diagnosed me with PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. And over time, with many days of practice, many days of practice, I changed my mind a little at a time. And as I changed my mind, I changed my life. My PTSD became PTG, post traumatic growth, instead. And now I live the life of my dreams. I'm kidding you not. I have a loving marriage, a beautiful, close family, a successful global business empire, and my most recent accomplishment, a farmhouse on several acres with a twist. The farmhouse is a super VIP retreat experience for global cultural creators and business owners that are succeeding with future generations in mind. It's my dream come true. It's something I've been wanting to create for decades, and I have done it. Um, the life that I'm leading would not have been possible with my original childhood software. I was programmed to be willing to receive less than I deserve, less than any of us deserve. I had filters of pain and suffering that prevented my good from coming to me freely and effortlessly. It was a hard life, and I'm grateful to be complete with the hard lessons that came with such a life. Let me ask you before I continue, have you had some difficult things happen in your life? Have you experienced something that caused you to pause and to wonder if you were ever going to feel better in your life? I see Mark is here. Hi, Mark. So grateful that you're here with me today. Um, think about it. If you're feeling that you're not in joyful, ecstatic um, mindset about your life, looking forward, eager, hopeful, positive, could you be living under the influence of some pain? Could you be living under the influence of some outdated software that you may have learned as a result of some painful experience? And if that's the case, I've got some information for you. I've got the last strategy today to share with you that has changed my life utterly. So it requires you remembering something very important: the power of our mind and our mindset is the leveraging tool. Once we've decided to change our lives, we have to start there. This is why mindset work is so utterly vital to bring into a daily practice. Getting right in our mind is how we clear the bramble bushes and create a new path in our brain, like the actual computer, and in our mind, the collective of all of our thoughts. But it truly does require daily practice. Because we're creatures of habit and we seek familiarity, we need to be aware of how we trip ourselves up. Remember, we are powerful choosers, whether we're choosing consciously or reacting unconsciously. So it's only us that has this awareness here, this power here in our mind to shift us. So since we are the only one who can actually change the programming, we've got to take responsibility for what's going on in here. We need to be aware of how we trip ourselves up, and that the self-sabotage and remembering of old pain, that replaying of old pain, are really habits. They're patterns, they're habits that must be monitored and broken, and sometimes broken more than once. It depends on how deep the pain goes or how pervasive that early programming may be. If you had an event occur in your life older, when your brain was already fully developed post age 25 or so, then you have, with one single isolated negative event, you have a much better chance of being done with it completely in one fell swoop, shifting that pattern with an excellent, helper, support person very quickly. But if you have patterns that you learned as a child, software that was installed early in your computer is used to running on that software. And it has created a lot of neural pathways on that software. And so it can take some time and, again, daily practice to actually go in there and interrupt those patterns, as I talked with you about last time, and then to install new ones. And so there are 4 ways that I have discovered in my own life and in my years of supporting leaders and business owners in changing their mind and their mindset. 4 ways that we short circuit ourselves in our attempt to live from a fresh new perspective. I call these 4 ways the 4 obstacles. The 4 obstacles are the most common mind patterns that create self sabotage and misery, preventing and precluding the positive life that we want. Are you ready? Ready to learn the 4 obstacles? Okay, they are number 1, fear. Number 2, beliefs. Number 3, attachment. And number 4, aversion. These 4 obstacles are literally the things that stop us in our tracks, often unconsciously, when we are attempting to create a new life, attempting to create a positive path for ourselves. These 4 obstacles are the very patterns in our mind that trip us and keep us stuck. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about each of these 4 obstacles, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to learn how to clear them easily, almost effortlessly, in just a moment. But first, let's explore with these 4 obstacles. Fear. Everybody knows what fear is, right? You know what fear is. It's that little nagging, oh no, something bad is going to happen. And sometimes it's just a little fear, or it can be a big fear. Fear is really a spectrum that ranges from anxiety to absolute terror. All of that is in the spectrum of fear. And so even when we're feeling like a little doubtful, that's still under the spectrum of fear. So think about what you are afraid of. What makes you afraid? What fear actually does in our brain and in our energy system, our electrical system, is that it constricts us. Remember me telling you about tendon guard reflex in the last episode, where I told you what happens to your brain on stress? When we are stressed through fear, our brain tissue actually pulls apart a little bit. And our whole energy system, our whole body constricts because we fear that we are getting ready to be chased by a saber-tooth tiger. It's ancient programming, right? And so that constriction that happens in our energy system when we are fearful closes us down. It closes us down to opportunities. It even can create tunnel vision where we can't even see all the wonderful stuff that's out here that's trying to come our way because we're like so afraid that this thing is going to happen or that something's not going to happen. Fear has many faces and many flavors, but we know what it feels like. It always feels the same. It's always that feeling of, oh no, this horrible thing is going to happen or is not going to happen. That feeling of fear, we know it so well, don't we? And it closes us down to joy. It closes us down to fully expressing who we are because it's a constriction. Remember, fear is a constriction. It's a tightening down. It's a bat down the hatches, because, oh my gosh, something horrible is coming. We often fear the unknown. But what if the unknown contains everything we've always wanted? It's so true. So that's fear. The second obstacle is beliefs. Now, that might be a puzzling one. You might say, but aren't beliefs vital in life? They can be, if they're good beliefs, if they're beliefs that are life affirming and positive and buoying and uplifting and strengthening to joy into a positive life. But often our beliefs are informed by someone else. We learn our beliefs often as children and young people. And occasionally we will take on beliefs because of an experience, but perhaps an isolated experience. But as a result of thinking that belief over and over again, we can recreate the same experience over and over again as well. Beliefs are hardened thoughts, traps inside our own mind. Think of bear traps, those horrible traps that you step in and you're caught like a net. And preventing open thought means that we cling to ideas that maybe don't serve us anymore. And so I like to say, hold beliefs lightly, because since they are just hardened thought, patterns of thought, we can change them. And if the beliefs that we have currently may not be serving us very well, then we can shift it. We can change our beliefs into something that's more life affirming for us. Obstacle number 3, attachment. Attachment starts very innocently as a desire. And desire is wonderful. Desire is something that even babies are born with. Babies desire to be held, or desire to be warm, or desire to be fed, or desire to have their diaper changed because they're wet, or, the desires are pure. And there's nothing wrong with desire. In fact, it's one of those beautiful things that makes us who we are. But desire that's taken an obsessive turn can become a closed, clinging obsession that actually prevents us from what we seek. Just like fear is a constriction, attachment also can become a constriction, because the thing we want can only look this way. But what if the thing we want is coming to us in another way? So remaining unattached to outcome means that we can receive the good that we want without laying conditions on it that sabotage our desire. So again, desire is good, attachment not good. Attachment prevents the desire from manifesting because we've become um, too obsessed with it looking a certain way. And the 4th obstacle is aversion. Aversion is the sneakiest one. Aversion is the opposite of attachment. Aversion is a knee-jerk reaction, a rejection of something because we are subconsciously resistant to it. Sometimes aversion is a good thing, like the aversion to harming another person, or the aversion to standing on a 200-foot cliff because you're afraid you'll fall over. That's a pretty instant knee-jerk reaction for me. No thanks. It's a survival issue. And my subconscious and your subconscious is trying to keep you alive all the time. It stays aware constantly of the threats in the environment. And sometimes aversion is a good thing because it makes common sense, because it wants to keep you alive. That subconscious wants to keep you alive. But sometimes aversion is simply a defense to opening our sense of who we really are. And these are those insidious subconscious belief patterns that we probably learned as children, that may not serve us anymore. And those are the trickiest ones to get to because they are deep in there, and it requires a steady hand, somebody who knows exactly how to get to that subconscious belief system and to gently transform it into something that actually supports us in a life that we choose and desire. How is that useful to you? Let me know how those 4 obstacles are actually providing something, for you to think about. And let me let you know, or remind you, that I have made it my life's work to help others move past their pain and make good medicine from bad medicine. These 4 obstacles and the ways to clear them are my gift to you. I've told you about the 4 obstacles today, but I'm not going to share with you how to clear them here in this TV episode. I want you to go to the link that I have here on my post and click to get your free gift about how to clear these 4 obstacles easily and with just a little daily understanding and a little daily attention. Because you deserve a life that you consciously choose. You can get this clearing information at the link here in this post for free. And let me remind you that as we examine our mind and as we examine the pain that may have informed our mind, that these 4 obstacles become a very powerful and essential tool to circle back into the first strategy, where we're actually being vulnerable, being willing to examine ourselves and our mind, and to be vulnerable without judgment, and ask for support if need be. And what actually happens is that these 5 strategies become almost like the recycling symbol. They circle back onto themselves and become this wonderful daily awareness that can happen at any time of day. Face any kind of situation that you may be looking in, at facing now or in the future, and prevent you from falling into that powerlessness and suffering of unconscious reaction, and pull you into conscious choice, and then forward into that life that you desire, to propel you, in fact, in such an effortless way that it almost defies logic. Now that you've learned the 5 strategies that got me where I am now, I'm super excited to be able to say with all love and hope and belief that you can absolutely change your life with these strategies, and that your life can be as blessed as mine. I am blessed. I am so supported in my life. I enjoy a currently 6-figure income. I think it'll be higher soon. I live in a dream house. I have a 35-year sweet marriage. I've raised my successful and actualized children, 2 of them, and then all the ones that are not my actual children, all my students and clients and readers over the years. And I enjoy my life every day. I effort to enjoy my life every single day. It's a choice that I choose to make. And like Geddy Lee of the mega band Rush says in their song Free Will, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. So, my friends, choose well. This has been Licia Berry, the guide to the frontier inside, and president of Hexagon Global, including the brands Juicy Sacred Living, Daughters of Earth Women's Leadership Institute, Sacred Systems and Unit Work, and LiciaBerry.com. I offer you the greatest of love and support. Please let me know if I can do anything to support you, and grab my free gift at the link that says the 4 obstacles here in this post. Go get 'em, Tiger.
I hope that you've enjoyed the show today as much as we've enjoyed making it for you. If you've got anything out of this episode, please do tell someone else how they can subscribe to the Brand Builders TV channel at youtube.com/brandbuilderstv. Why not join us at our next Brand Builders Thinkubator, a global mastermind that we run every week to take away the loneliness of being in business on your own. For more information and to book your place, visit light.brandbuilders.club/Thinkubator. That's light.brandbuilders.club/Thinkubator. Until next time, be the ripple that you wish to see in the world, and we'll see you soon.